Morgan and Peter find said purse and with very little reluctance begin to go through her texts because some start to come in. Who are they coming in from? Cliff, of course. And Morgan and Peter decide to help Mindy in her dating life by texting him back. So this premise is silly and fun, but it's also really freaking crazy. Because why in the world would anyone think it's a good idea to start texting someone pretending to be someone else, and not just texting, sexting?
Seems pretty normal.
Welcome back to The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking another episode of The Mindy Project. Now, if you're enjoying these episodes, or if you're just a fan of The Mindy Project and enjoy consuming content about it, please consider subscribing and or following. Like the episodes, comment, shoot us an email at info@TheRankPodcast with your suggestions or questions. Please also consider becoming a patron at our Patreon site at patreon.com/TheRankPodcast. Now, today we're going to be ranking the 8th episode of the 2nd season of The Mindy Project called You've Got Sext, written by Mindy Kaling and directed by Alex Hardcastle. And there are going to be spoilers here. This show has been out for a while now, so if you want to watch it, please watch it. The goal here is to figure out what the best sitcom of all time is, and to do that, we take different series. We rank every single episode of each series, and then that gives us an average ranking for the series, and we figure out what is the best sitcom of all time. And today, we're doing The Mindy Project, starting with the Potent Notables.
Potent Notables.
So the 8th episode of the 2nd season aired Tuesday, November 12th, 2013. I'm convinced the Oliphant effect is real, as Mindy went right back down to 2.7 million viewers this week, losing its 200,000 Oliphant effect bump from last week. Naturally, it was the lowest of the Fox Tuesday lineup, and New Girl was the highest, as it lost 700,000 viewers from its New Girl lead-in. All the viewers that Mindy lost went right back to Supernatural on the CW, which had 2.4 million, which is shockingly close to Mindy's total. I can't imagine a CW show beating a Fox show, but it looks like it could happen. It lost to Trophy Wife again, which stayed the same at 3.7 million. NCIS Los Angeles and The Voice as well, it lost to. What was the most watched show that Tuesday night? You'll be shocked to hear it's NCIS, the original NCIS, which with 19.4 million viewers. So Glenn Howerton is back again for this episode, so naturally, let's take a look at how Glenn got on the show and what he thought of it. His was different from most, in that he didn't reach out to Mindy, they reached out to him because they were fans of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. What Glenn Howerton said was, quote, "Interestingly enough, I don't really watch a lot of TV comedies just because it's what I do, and it's not as much fun for me. It kind of feels like work. But The Mindy Project is one of the few shows that my wife and I do watch," end quote. So to say yes, Glenn had insisted that he didn't want to play the same role as he does in Sunny. Quote, "The cool thing is they really wanted to see something different from me too. So it's much more of a leading man, straight man type role in The Mindy Project, which I was excited to do," end quote. So those are our Potent Notables. Let's go to the episode overview. So we open with a redefinition of feminism from Morgan, because, you know, feminism nowadays is all about reminding working women that they have to look hot too. This is all established in that book, Lean In, because it's telling women to lean in to make their boobs look bigger, right?
That makes sense to me.
So this ridiculous conversation takes place as Mindy and Morgan get on the elevator, and soon thereafter they're joined by Cliff and his date, an ass model. So Mindy is understandably feeling like he's out of her league, but Morgan is convinced that Cliff and Mindy should be together, and he chastises her for not being more flirty. Unfortunately, the realization of belonging with Mindy happens to two men in this episode. It hits Cliff more obviously, but it also hits Danny, though it takes longer for him to realize it than it does for Cliff. Although that might not be fair to Cliff, because there's a reason it comes easier for him. He starts texting Mindy, who has lost her purse, which was the reason that she ends up staying at Danny's place for the night. Putting aside that it's pretty silly that she has no other way to get into her place besides the keys in her purse, let's move on with the story. Morgan and Peter find said purse and with very little reluctance begin to go through her texts because some start to come in. Who are they coming in from? Cliff, of course. And Morgan and Peter decide to help Mindy in her dating life by texting him back. So this premise is silly and fun, but it's also really freaking crazy. Because why in the world would anyone think it's a good idea to start texting someone pretending to be someone else, and not just texting, sexting?
Seems pretty normal.
I've helped friends out with texting romantic interests before, but always with their knowledge. And like, they're so shocked when things start to go wrong. How? Like, how did they think this would turn out in their favor? Anyway, while things kept going more and more wrong for Peter, Morgan, and Cliff, things are getting tense for Danny. Mindy mentions that she's into someone that works in the building that's out of her league, and Danny assumes it's him, which is pretty damn arrogant. But before he can correct her, he comes in contact with his crazy neighbor who is obsessed with him. As you may have suspected, this ends up not being a crazy person, though when she shows up in the apartment uninvited, that was a little shocking. But really, Danny was just carrying on a relationship with this woman. But Mindy doesn't know that. She just helps right away, coming up with a fake name, Chloe Silverado, which is a great name, by the way, and relationship with Danny, where she's apparently pregnant with his baby boy and they're engaged. Throughout the course of this fake relationship, Danny realizes that he might enjoy being Mindy's significant other. His realization comes around the time that Cliff realizes he's been catfished by Peter and Morgan. Now, you may think it was a little crazy to have him jump to the conclusion that they may have murdered Mindy, but I think that just goes to show what a psychopathic thing they did in pretending to be her. Either way, Cliff, embarrassed and annoyed, ends up going home with Josh's ex, Heather, who was invited to the party by Morgan, who has consistently had a thing for her. I guess Morgan is over his one episode crush on Tamara. I don't know. Now we go to the next day, and Danny is giving Mindy the hint to tell him that she likes him, and is floored to find out that the guy she likes is actually Cliff. Poor Danny. Should have just been honest and not so arrogant. But Mindy heads to work and sees her purse returned by Morgan, who didn't delete the text between Mindy and Cliff, which she is quite aggrieved to find, along with a voicemail from Heather. For one, I'm looking forward to seeing the repercussions to this, but let's find out how this one ranks.
I'll rank.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, and then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times that the episode made me laugh out loud, 1 point per laugh out loud, and that gets added to the score. Now, before I go into the rank, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this episode, please like it, helps us out. But on to the next category, or the first category, which is story. I gave story a 3. There's not much of a story here. It's more just a day in the life episode, which is fine. I suppose the overarching story is Danny realizes he has feelings for Mindy, but there's not really an arc from beginning to end. Again, it's not a problem because it was still a funny and good episode. So let's go to acting, which I gave a 4.75. I thought the acting was really good in this one. I'm not sure why I didn't go full 5 on this. It just doesn't feel right to do so, and that's sort of good enough for me to not go full 5. I think it's probably Ike and that whole B story not hitting quite right, but again, just the littlest bit off for me. So let's go to dialogue, which I gave a 4.5. Great as usual, but I feel like it should have made me laugh more. I think it's that the premise for both A and B really felt flimsy. So let's go to episode coherence, which I gave a 3.5. The whole texting, sexting as someone else to a person that the person they're pretending to be is interested in is really just bananas. Doesn't mean it wasn't a fun premise, but yikes. The only other issue I have is Mindy being so oblivious to Danny feels a little out of character. Because there have been other moments where they've shown interest in each other, so you would think she could pick up on that, but it's not a huge deal. And then we have the missing purse, which means that Mindy will just give up on trying to go home. Look, I'm fine with a contrived reason to get Mindy to sleep over at Danny's, but why not say that there's like some kind of abatement or fumigation or something happening at Mindy's? I don't know, the purse thing felt a little feeble. So let's go to character relatability, which I gave a 4. I absolutely cannot relate to sexting someone on behalf of a friend, especially without them knowing. That's just really messed up. Everything else is definitely relatable. Even Danny's realization that he likes Mindy is really relatable. I used to think moments like that were ridiculous when I was younger, like, really? You didn't know you were attracted to her? But with age comes experience, and knowing you're attracted to someone is different than knowing you like. Anyway, pretty relatable, but the sexting, texting thing knocks it down a bit. So now we go to the laugh counter, and I laughed 14 times in this one, which it's certainly not low, but it feels like it should be higher for a Mindy Project episode. So that puts the grand total up to 33.75 for this episode of the Mindy Project, which means I'd watch it again. As for the series average, that's at a 35.2, just barely keeping it in the holy grail. So thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment, and like the episode if you liked it. And please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast, where you get access to all of our archived episodes. But I'll leave you with this. Why did Mindy end up having to do a factory reset on her phone?
Oh, why is that?
Because it had been through so much it couldn't vibrate without blushing.
No.
But before he can correct her, he comes in contact with his crazy neighbor who is obsessed with him. Hello? Oh, good. How about you?
You're being recorded.